Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellin, and I want to welcome you to the Jazz Guitar channel. If you're like most players getting into jazz, regardless of what instrument you play, I'm sure you know most of your basic modes, at least the Dorian, Mixolydian, and Ionian, to solo over a major 2-5-1. Hopefully you even know the related chord arpeggios and you can make your way through the changes when improvising over a few standards. However, you find that you are always repeating the same licks and your lines sound like scales with no interesting twists and turns, and other than resorting to memorize another lick or two by your favorite player, you just don't know what to do to expand your bebop vocabulary. Well, if this is your case, this lesson might just be part of the solution. And even if you're a more advanced player, I'm sure that what I'm going to show you today will also come in very handy. Let me share with you what I learned after studying and hanging out with lots of the greats. Believe it or not, for the most part, I learned that they all use the same Dorian, Mixolydian, and Ionian that you and I use. The same notes and the same arpeggios. The secret is in the strategy they employ to organize those same notes and combine them with the rhythms. In other words, they've figured out the method to the madness required to derive lots of more interesting music from those same scales any ordinary musician uses. And today I'm going to share with you just one among many of those methods you can use to easily create a full-fledged bebop line. But the coolest thing is that in this case, you only need 2 or 3 notes to get started. And from here on, we will refer to these 2 or 3 notes as a pitch cell. To begin, I want you to listen to an 8th note bass line over a major 2-5-1. Nothing fancy. Now, if you had to define what you just heard, you could simply say it was a bunch of 8th notes that nicely blended with the chord changes. And you wouldn't be wrong, but unless you've got ESP, in my mind, I wasn't just randomly selecting a bunch of 8th notes. I was actually using a strategy that I practiced, which is one of many ways of organizing the notes in any given scale to create a specific melodic outcome. And in this case, would you believe that over each measure, I was focusing only on 2 or 3 notes? Furthermore, you would never guess that they were strategically placed at the beginning and end of each measure. Let me show you what I was thinking, and then I'll share a detailed step-by-step procedure so you too can do the same. So what I'm doing here is I'm thinking over the pitch cells for each measure. That's what I'm focusing on. For example, let me play all 4 measures, and you'll see that I'm starting out with the 9, going to a 3, to a 13, 9, 7, 5, 9. Now you'll notice that on all of these, I'm leading up to the note from below. It could be done from above too. It just has to do with the register. I didn't have any register to do something from above, so I did it from below. But if we take the first example and play it, so I have my 9 here. I could go now, Obviously, I'm using different rhythms and some syncopation, triplets. These aren't just straight eighth notes. But in the procedure I'm going to show you, just for the sake of simplicity, so you can start practicing it that way, I'm just going to employ straight eighth notes. And here's a step-by-step procedure so you can do the same with any simple pitch cell. And if you want to really get deep into this, later I'll tell you how you can download a study package I've prepared with all the info and much more. Step 1. Select a 2 or 3 note pitch cell which is diatonic to any given scale of your choice. This is what I like to call the framework of the line, and it contains the notes that you will focus on and around which you will expand the line. And this could be a segment of the related chords arpeggio or the scale. And if it's the scale, it should preferably consist of a fragment in stepwise motion, such as 3-2-1 or 5-6-7. Step 2. To expand the pitch cell into an eighth note line, first notate its rhythm grouping devoid of any note heads or interval notation. And I strongly recommend you do this with paper and pencil and not simply in your head. Step 3. If using a 2-pitch cell, place its first interval over the initial eighth note and the second one over the final one. So in this example, I'm using 2 arpeggio notes, the 3 and the 5 of a major scale. If using a 3-pitch cell, you have 2 options. Option 1, place the first 2 intervals or pitches over the 2 initial eighth notes and the third one over the final eighth note. And in this example, my 3-pitch cell consists of flat 3, 2, and 1, which is simply a scale fragment from a minor scale. Option 2, place the first interval or pitch over the initial eighth note and the remaining ones over the 2 final eighth notes. And as you can see, I am using the same minor 3 pitch cell I used for option 1. Step 4, and now comes the creative part. This is where the fun begins. Fill in the empty rhythms with any combination of degrees from the associated diatonic scale so that they descend or ascend and resolve back to the upcoming interval, preferably by stepwise motion or a third. In order to pack more notes, as well as create a wider range with added motion, be sure to start the insertion using an interval sufficiently distant to that of the preceding one. So 2 key steps here. The first scale or arpeggio degree you add must be sufficiently distant from the previously written one, and the final note of your insertion must voice lead back to the upcoming written one by an interval of a second or a third preferably. In example 1, you'll see on the top eighth note grouping that I'm using the configuration we previously saw for option 2. Again, it's a 3-pitch minor cell, which I'm expanding to create a Dorian line. Note that I'm starting out with a 9th to create the required distant interval from the initial cell, which is a flat 3 below it. After that, I am filling the remaining empty notes with the minor 7 chord arpeggio and descending down to the flat 3, which voice leads by a minor second to the upcoming cell pitch, which is the 2. Let's do the same now for a mixolydian-based 3-pitch cell so we can form a 2-5 line with the previous one. This cell consists of 3 arpeggio notes, the 3, 5, and flat 7. And if you look at the finished line, you'll note that I'm now using the option 1 configuration, which consists of placing 2 pitches at the beginning and the third over the final eighth note. Also notice that this time I'm going below the 5 to start my insertion with the 2 of the scale, which is a perfect fifth below it. Probably the smallest distance you want to begin with. After that, I am using the pure scale, this time ascending all the way to the 6th, which in turn resolves by half step to the upcoming flatted 7. Of course, I am repeating the 3 and the 5, which are originally part of the 3-note cell, but there is nothing wrong with that. Let me play the previous Dorian line followed by this one so you can hear the 2-5 line. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, you can alter the rhythms and make it even more interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not bad, but there's lots more. But first, I want you to know that I've prepared a special study package that you can download containing a PDF with all the notated examples and detailed procedure I am sharing in this lesson. It also includes the tab for everything, but I believe the most beneficial feature here is the 8 additional examples of 2 and 3 pitch cells and the procedure I employed to expand them into 2-5-1 8th note based bebop lines. And you can download them for a very small contribution, basically the price of buying me a nice cup of coffee. Your contribution is much appreciated because it's what enables me to put in the amount of work and time required to bring you these lessons. It's a lot, believe me. All you have to do is head over to jazzguitar.richiezellen.com/premium and select this lesson in the mini courses section. Next, let's learn how to include chromatic passing tones when expanding any pitch cells. For this example, I am using a 2-pitch cell, which I am again associating with a Dorian scale. And for our 2-pitch cells, the procedure is easy. The first pitch over the initial 8th note and the second pitch over the last one. That leaves us with 6 8th notes in between to assign pitches to. So if you look at example 3 below, you'll see that I am starting with the 9th above the flatted 3, a wide distance apart. Then I'm descending using the Dorian scale with chromatic passing tones between the 1 and the flatted 7, and finally between the 6 and the final 5. And notice again the final chromatic conveniently voice leads by half step to the 5. Let me play it for you. Here's my 3-pitch cell. Here's the entire line. 1, 2, 3, 4. And before I conclude by showing you one of the additional 8 2-5-1s I've added to the PDF download, I just want to let you know that if you find the info in this lesson helpful, there is plenty more like this that I teach in my online Bebop Guitar Improv Series courses. They consist of 6 books and close to 200 videos, which are guaranteed to take your playing to an entire new level. And for more info, please visit bebopguitar.richiezellen.com and you will find a direct link in the info section down below. 1, 2, 3, 4. I truly hope that what I have shared in this lesson will help you explore and create some new jazz vocabulary you can use. As usual, I appreciate your likes, comments, and welcome any questions you may have. And if you enjoyed this lesson and this is your first time on the Jazz Guitar channel, please be sure to subscribe. And it's time to say, hasta la vista, stay safe, and may peace be with you.